Now, I know what you might be thinking here. What on earth is this? To be perfectly honest, I'm not sure why I bought this one. Apart from the fact I think that I quite like the symmetry of it. I like the way that it has this triangular symmetry, but in two different orientations. For those unfamiliar, this is the Toplana Hath Vulcan lander. As far as I'm aware, we've only ever seen it in Star Trek First Contact. And it's the ship that lands on Earth to make first contact, courtesy of Zefram Cochrane's warp speed flight in the Phoenix. I think that before Star Trek Enterprise, the series, we didn't actually see that many out-and-out Vulcan ships at all. I'm struggling to think of a single episode of The Next Generation or the original series where we saw a Vulcan ship. I think the Romulans once borrowed some or something. Someone can tell me in the comments if I'm on the right track with that one. But this was sort of an interesting one. It reminds me a little bit of the hero ship from Battle Beyond the Stars, and that'll date me, like carbon dates me. But people who know that ship will get the vibe that I'm talking about. The sort of the curvature and the brown coloration. That's definitely similar to that, and obviously this is a typical Vulcan coloration as we saw in Enterprise. But let's get into the unboxing part of the exercise. A great big stonking hunk of polystyrene, ladies and gentlemen. This was a special edition issue, by the way, so I got this as part and parcel of the package as a whole. So this is one of the full-size magazines, so you can just about make that out there. And perhaps I should have read this first, but it looks like it was a very practical model actually in many respects, because obviously the Vulcans had to sort of disembark it in First Contact, and I think in order for them to do that, it looks like they made a fairly large set of it. Certainly for the sort of the exiting ramp bit of it anyway, even if not for the entire ship. It's interesting because it's kind of variable geometry ship as well. So it's got these sort of landing struts that deploy. So it's an interesting ship for Star Trek, which is probably one of the reasons why I opted to get it, simply because it's one of those unusual ones that makes you go, unless you're very into your Trek, of course. Let me just go stand out initially, then it's a little bit smaller in the box, I think, somehow than I thought it was going to be. I don't know why I thought that, but it's quite an imposing box for an XL sort of style of ship. So there we are. There's my little certificate of authenticity on the bottom of the stand there. To plan half a Vulcan lander. It's interesting they called it a Vulcan lander, actually, now that I stop and think about it. Sorry, there's my head. Because a lander implies there was a mothership, surely. Unless this just happens to be a ship that lands. I don't know. It's leave that one to your imagination, but I don't think we were ever told of another ship. So presumably this is just a lander that happens to be warp capable. Which seems a little bit excessive, but anyway. So there she is. So as you can see, it's got this really interesting kind of. I mean, it's quite organic looking in some respects. Let's ditch the box. It's quite organic looking in as I say, it's sort of very, very smooth lines. It's very, very sort of dark bronzy colour. So obviously very A looking, also clean. Not something that they could ever have disguised as any sort of Earth ship or whatever. So very appropriate. I think that was the landing craft. I think this area here is the area where the hatch opened and they actually they disembarked from. Presumably there were 3 of those because it's sort of I'm going to use my made-up word trilaterally symmetrical again. But I quite like the look of it. I assume it would fly, obviously in that direction, which again I don't have an issue with because it's a spaceship. It doesn't have to be particularly aerodynamic about it, and of course it would sort of land down in that way. But I think it's in its landing. It's in its landing configuration there. Perhaps it flew. I think from what I just saw briefly in the magazine, it flew perhaps with these sort of struts kind of more together. I don't know. It's an interesting one. It's got a rather novel stand because its stand is a little sort of War of the Worlds style triangular things. Let me just try and plonk it on there in a sensible fashion. There we go. So it's a very unique ship because it's not in any way sort of enterprisey or anything else. It is unmistakably Romulan, but sorry, unmistakably Vulcan. But even then, it's quite unusual for a Vulcan ship because the Vulcan ships on Enterprise didn't have this sort of trilateral, symmetry, this triangular sort of symmetry going on at all. They had rings, as I recall, for their warp drive sections, for their warp nacelles. So it's quite a novel little design, which is probably why it appealed to me. I'm sure I got it largely to fill out one of the 3 for 2 offers as I often do. But yeah, I like it. It's actually got sensible landing struts, which makes sense because it's a lander. Yeah, so it's cool. I like it. It's very sort of monotone, but Vulcans being Vulcans, why would they make it jolly looking and paint it in special colours? They wouldn't because they're Vulcans, so that makes perfect sense. Cool. Okay, well that's that one. I suspect it was actually cut price in and of itself as well when I got it, and that might be a reason why I got it, just to sort of fill out an order. But anyway, I've given it a home, so there you have it. I hope that's been of some use to you. I have no idea if this would be on your particular shopping list, but it's one of my more unusual ones, along with the Betty from Alien Resurrection. My son asked me why I bought a spaceship that was made out of wood, to which I had no sensible answer, really. So there you go. Direct and to the point, as he often is. Right, I shall leave you with that one to consider, and I've got a couple more little ones to look at now, and then I think I'm done. Cheers for now.